and he is going to be leading today's workshop on how to, how to use Microsoft Word for writing papers. So without further ado, let's give a round of applause to our professor today.
And you could use your little emojis like I'm doing right here. Honestly, for that, if you have a question, that'll be the best. You could jump into if I don't see you. However, when you do the little raising hand emoji, it brings you to the top of my screen, so I'll be able to see it. That way it'll be easier. So I'm flying around. That way it'll be easier for me to see who has a question, because I actually want you to ask questions during this one. This is much different than, say, the brown bag lunch that many of you were at. That is a presentation. This one is a workshop, so it's what it sounds like. So we're going to work through together. One of the things I have noticed since I have come to community college, which is much different than when I taught at university, is that a lot of students don't have experience with Microsoft Word yet. And this is something you are going to need to know, whether you like it or not. We don't like students to use PDF, Apple Pages, or all of that other stuff that you may use. And that's for a couple reasons. The first reason is because you are not getting, this is what you're going to do in the workforce. Typically, they're going to have you use Microsoft Word. It's or Office, Microsoft Office, which, by the way, that Office consists of Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook. It's a package. You may have heard that term and weren't quite sure what it was. When we use PDF, a lot of times it's going to be a locked document, so we can't make adjustments to it or, make comments or change things, work on it together that way. That's why PDFs are typically going to be like a final document that you may use in the workplace. If you take your paper when you're done, which, by the way, if you're in my class, you have a paper, you take it to the writing center. The writing center won't work with you unless you have a Microsoft Word document. They just won't work with it. If you do a paper drop off at the end, they will say in the little wording, they'll say, you drop it off here, it must be in Microsoft Word. And that's because it allows them to make comments directly into it, and then you can make those corrections. If you're working on Google Docs, a lot of you like to use Google Docs as well. That's a good one. However, what you need to know is when you're done working on your Google Doc, you still have to transfer it to Microsoft Word. And even though Google Docs has a button for you to go ahead and change the format over to Microsoft Word, it changes the format a lot of times. That's why I will get a lot of papers from students and they'll be like, I don't know why my first page started on my cover page, or why my references page began at the end of my last page. That's because they didn't double check at the end when Microsoft Word changed everything, and it just basically kind of ruined the formatting of their whole paper, and then they get marked down on their paper. So I want people to learn how to use Microsoft Word from the beginning. It's a tool you're just not going to be able to get away from. So what we're going to do today first is I'm going to have, if you look in the chat box right here, if you're in my class, this is a lot of the stuff that you'll already see this right here. Look in the chat box, that link. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you'll click on that link. If you already have Microsoft Word, you don't need to do that. Just open up a Word document or get ready to open up the Word document, because we'll go through a bunch of things that Microsoft Word does together, and we'll try to do it as a group. And if you have any questions as we're doing it, then this is the time to do it. And there'll be some times where I'll give you a lot of shortcuts that Microsoft does when you're typing your papers. However, I'll give you the information of how to do it if you have a Mac or if you have a PC. There's just slight differences of how you'll do these shortcuts. If you're using this link in the box that I gave you, and we work on, say, headings, which is a very important thing, you'll notice that there are slight differences with this particular link that's in the box. That's only if you don't download the full Microsoft Word. And there's an option to do that where you can download the Microsoft Word to your computer. If you're just using the link that's in this chat box right here, and that's how you've been writing your papers, you're going to notice that it's very limited. And I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. It's limited in what it allows you to do. So when it'll actually ask you if you can, hold on. There's something that came up on the screen. I had to click for live transcription. If you notice on your Microsoft Word, through the internet, which is that link I gave you, there'll be a button where you can actually download the app and then get the full Microsoft Word, which will do everything. And that's what you're going to want to have. So for those of you that don't have it, I'll just cover that real fast. Let me share my screen with you. This is what that link looks like. If you don't have it, go ahead and do this now. You're just going to put in your school email address, and I'll go ahead and put mine in just so you can kind of see what the next page will look like. It's just your email address that you have for VVC. And once you click on the Get Started, you're going to click on right here, I'm a student, but I'll go ahead and click on I'm a teacher because that's just what it's going to have me do. But you'll click on I'm a student. I already have a license for it. But what it'll do then is I believe it will send you an email just to verify if I remember correctly. But it's like a couple steps. And that's what you look at for in the chat box. In the chat box, give me 1 second. I'm trying to, okay. In the chat box, hold on, give me 1 second. Who's what's your name? Sorry, Zara?
I'm here.
Yeah, so when this transcription came on right now, it's not allowing me to go back over to the screen. It's actually every time I scroll to go to the screen of all the people on Zoom, it keeps shoving my browser screen back over. And it happened when I clicked on the transcription button that it was asking for transcription. I don't know what's going on with that, but
yeah, I'm not sure with that because I think this is the second time somebody's requested transcription, but you're looking at the chat box?
Yeah, no, I just fixed it. I just fixed it. No, so what was happening, you know how we have the Zoom screen in front of us and then like where you'll actually move the screen to go to your browser. Every time I was trying to come back, it kept shoving back to my browser, but it happened as soon as the transcription came on. So it's fine. I fixed it. I found a way to circumvent it. So we're good. Okay, so in the chat box right there, it'll say, click student, do the automated verification process, then you'll have Office 365. That is going to give you all of the different things, like I mentioned, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, all of those. We are going to use Word. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through step-by-step, essentially, of Microsoft Word. Some of this stuff you may know, other things you may not know, but that's fine. We will get through this together.
Do you mind? I'm sorry to interrupt you. As I think I log in after, it's not showing anything in the chat box for me to click on it. Do you mind sharing again, please?
You see it?
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so let me open up my Word so I can share the screen with you. So if you have Microsoft Word, go ahead and open that up right now. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so yours will look something like this, exactly like this. I hear students sometimes say, hey, mine looks a little bit different than yours. That there's a couple of reasons why that can be. First, it can be because you're using the link that was in the chat box and you're using it directly off of the web, meaning you're not using it off of the application. That's why I'm saying if you download the app, it's better. You'll actually get way more choices up here of things that you can work with. You may also have a different version of Microsoft. And the way you can know is by clicking over here and then just click on this About Microsoft Word. And then you'll be able to see, oh, this is Word for Mac. And then you can come and you can see a version 16.53. Now, depending on the version, you're still going to have, most likely, unless you have a very old version for some reason, you're going to have all of the same options. It's just going to maybe be in a different place, and that's fine. Did somebody raise their hand a second ago?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Nope.
We're good.
Okay. All right. So when you're starting a new document, so something as very simple as starting a new document, what you're going to do is you would just come up to File, and all of your stuff you need right here is going to be very important every time you come to File. This is going to be right here. A lot of times people will do it from right here or right here, new document or new from template. If you do it from new from template, they actually will provide you with different templates that you can choose from depending on what you're using it for. Maybe you're making a brochure for something in a class that they're telling you, hey, for this assignment, you're going to make a brochure. And let me know, were you able to see when it switched over, by the way? It like opened up the templates. Were you able to see that? Sometimes I don't know what are you looking at right now, Bianca? You're on mute.
Okay, and mine, I'm still waiting to start because it's Adam asked me to wait. Let me see.
Marvin, what are you looking at, Marvin,
Sorry.
right now? That's fine.
I'm a little mixed up. I'm on a blank screen. I
Is
had
it
but I
a
can't-
okay, Zyra, can you tell me what, because I don't know what you are seeing when I'm sharing a screen sometimes.
Yes.
That's why.
So we
Is it
can
showing
only
the-
see the document. We can't see the new screen that you're
Okay,
using.
so that's what I wanted to know. Thank you. So I have to every time stop
The
sharing screen.
office, okay.
Well, yeah, she said to write the document. That's what. Yeah, it's a blank document.
Where did?
So you can probably do the advanced option and just share a portion of your screen.
Yeah, but hold on.
And
something's wrong. There
I
we
see a
go.
blanket document too. That's it.
Yes, yes. Hold on. This is doing that thing again. I don't know what is going on with this Zoom. This has never happened to me in my life. It keeps shoving the screen back over. I can't get back to your box. Hold on, you guys, you got to give me a second. I don't know what's going on with this Zoom link here. Okay, all right, there we go. Where is that button for that kind of share, Zyra?
It's on the second. So if you click
Advanced?
on share screen, yeah,
There we go.
advanced.
I got it. Okay. Okay, so what are you able to see on here now?
We see take a tour, take notes, welcome to work.
Yeah.
So we
Different
can see a
document.
portion of that screen. So basically we can see the templates that you're showing, that you were trying to show us, but it's very zoomed in.
Yeah, okay, let me expand this then. There we go. Did it expand?
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
Okay. So now you can see that. Sorry, Zoom is throwing things up at me. Okay, so when you do the Microsoft Word, you have that first option of open. You can open a new template, or you can open a new document or a template. These are all the templates that they will give you when you begin. And there's just a mix in here. So this really just depends on what it is you're trying to do, depending on what your assignment is. Sometimes it's easier than just using a blank document, because if you have a blank document of how it will typically show up, then you have to start creating all these different things, which can be a challenge for, even for me, it's a challenge. So if you have to create like a brochure, they'll say for an assignment, you would just click on that one right there. Maybe you have to journal something or create some kind of cover letter for, your internship class. You can actually get those from there. And then they can also kind of show you the different things that you would need to include in a cover letter as well, because some of you may not even know what a cover letter is, but these things are very helpful for that. But if we go ahead and click on blank document right here, so here are some of the things that, let me expand this out a little bit so we can see everything. Okay, so this is going to be the blank document one that you're going to be using when you're writing your paper. And when you're writing your paper, a lot of the things that we had, remember, we went up to file and then we just created the new document or started a new document. So a lot of the things that we're going to want to do for this is, say you have to type my research paper, for instance. We already know a little bit, or some of you know a little bit, or have, briefly in one of the assignments learned about headings in order to get started with the actual typing or writing of your paper. But that was like one thing we used when we dealt with over here in what we call the styles pane. But I'm actually going to reshare this as a regular shared document, because I don't need to do the partial share anymore, and it's better. I can show you more. Okay, so here you go. This is better now. Okay, so when we come up here, this entire area, this whole bar, all of this right here is going to have everything you need. Now, there's a lot of stuff in here that some of it you may never use. A lot of it, though, you will use depending on what you're doing for it. So for instance, say we're creating, just the title of our research paper, but we're just kind of writing it like that for now. But we need it to be our title. We know that it has to look a certain way. Now, depending if you're using MLA or you're using APA format, there's different things you would need to have it look, or different ways you need to have it look like, and different things you'd have to do for it. But one of the ways that we know we have to do in, for instance, APA, is we know that it would have to be centered and it would have to be bolded. But what we can do right here is we can just come in here to the styles pane, and we can see that these already have like preset, you know, headings or styles as they call them, that make the wording look different every single time we click on one of these. So it's going to constantly change, but none of these are APA or MLA format, so we really can't use them. But we can set them up so when we begin with our outline or begin with a certain portion of our paper, they're already set up. So when I save my paper into a folder on my desktop and I go to work on it a week from now, I don't have to worry about coming in here, making sure I change every single one of these things every time I'm switching portions of my paper. That it's all I got to do is just click on the button of where it belongs. So we know that a lot of papers are going to require a certain font style and a certain font size. So that's going to be for like the body of your paper, you know, your introduction, your methods, your whatever section you're doing for that. And that would always go under normal, because that's just meaning I'm normally, you know, typing my paper. So we look right here, when I click normal, Calibri body 12, maybe that's not what your professor wants for you. Like me, I always have you do Times New Roman 12 or Arial 11. So we would just go in and save this. And some of you know how to do this, that's fine, but we'll go ahead and refresh real quick on this. So what we do is we come on here and we're going to click that little drop down arrow, because we're using the normal one as well, like I said up here. Now we're just gonna do kind of like a preset. It's always gonna be saved that way when I come back to it whenever. So I just click on my drop down arrow right there. And I'm always going to click on modify style, because I need to change the style that Microsoft Office has given us to begin with, because Microsoft doesn't give us APA or MLA formatting. They just give us their version of it. When I click on that, this box is going to open up. This is everything you need in order to make sure your settings are there. So we just come in real quick and start changing, say, our font style, our font size. So we'll just go with like Times New Roman as a classic one. And Times New Roman is going to be in 12-point font. So we'll keep that there. But remember, we're doing normal, our body of our paper. The body of our paper is not going to be bolded. It's not going to be in italics. It's definitely not going to be underlined. We want to make sure we have black ink, because that's just what we use. And then you're going to look at these buttons right here. And if you just let the cursor kind of hover over it, it's going to appear and say align left, center text, align right. So these are the types of things right here that mean, another way of saying it is flush left. Now you see it's giving an example in here. So watch it move, and I click that. That's what center is. It's centering all of the text that will be there, or align right, and it's all going to be flush right that way. You can see it's not flush left down here. So we always want to make sure it's aligned left. And then we always do double space, right? All papers are double spaced, by the way, in college writing, unless your professor specifies otherwise. When you get a paper, by the way, I always get students ask me, does it need to be double spaced? The answer is always yes, unless I go out of my way to tell you single space. That's just the rule, okay? So whenever you do get a paper from a professor and they don't tell you, assume it's double spaced. Anybody know why we use double space?
So you can read it better?
Yeah, that's a
More
big
clear.
reason. Yeah, because if it's all like close, it's harder to read. And also too, if say the old school way too was like maybe you would turn a paper in and I would make notes like in between the lines as well. So it's a couple of, really to read it better is a big reason why. All right, so then all you're gonna do is just click, and then you can see this, by the way, is just gonna be like paragraph spacing, but you don't need to worry about that because we're already doing the double spacing. And then I just click okay. Now that is saved, because you can see now it changed this. If I highlight it, it's going to tell me that's Times New Roman. However, if I click that, we can see it change again, but it will change back to what I just set it to. Now, if I save my paper in my desktop somewhere in a folder and I come back to it a week later, I will know 100% of the time that this normal button will always be Times New Roman 12, flush left, black ink, double spaced. So when I start typing my paper, say I'm typing my paper, I'm just typing a bunch of words, and then I go, it already double spaced for me. You see that? And that automatically does that for me. Now, if I want to, when I start creating my different sections, I don't want to do capitals, start sections of my paper, for instance, the title of my paper. The title of my paper will not be under normal. This is going to be when we do a different type of heading. So we always want to use heading 1 because the paper is always going to begin with my title and kind of funnel out into the different parts of the paperwork. So because this is not going to be a proper heading style for APA or MLA, we'll go in once again and manually change it. So now I come down to where it says heading 1, because that's where we're at. I drop down again. I click modify style again. Once I click on that button, that same box is going to open up, and you can see the presets are already in there, which don't match up with the paper. Since we were using Times New Roman 12, I'm going to have to do that again. So I come back in here and I click that, change that font to 12. Right away, I know that ink needs to change to black, but this time it needs to be bold. Anytime we have our headings or our section, they always have to be in bold. So I just bold it. Now it's not going to be a line left like the body of my paper. I'm going to have to center it. So I just click center text, and you can see how it moved that part. If I go back, you see it over here to the left. Right here, it goes center. And then it's already on double space for me, so that's good. And then I just click OK. Now you can see it went to where it should be. So if I click back to normal, it went to what I had for normal. If I click heading 1, it goes here. So now it's saved. I put it on my desktop. I come back a week later. I have that saved as well. Now, you can do all of this manually. The downfall to that is because if I instead I want to do my subheading for introduction, everyone. Say I want to make my introduction heading. Oops, my introduction heading right here. And I don't want to put it under heading 2 right here. Instead, I want to do it manually, which you can do. I just come in here, I click Times New Roman 12, make sure that's in there. I click bold, that's my bold right here. I go over here, I make sure it was in black, which it already was. And then I click here is the double spacing. Here's my spacing bar, by the way. It's the one with the arrows up and down. If you hold your cursor over any button, by the way, it's going to appear. You see how it says line and paragraph spacing? That way you can know what you're kind of getting into. I click that, that one's already on double space for me. Okay. So it does look that way. However, the problem is say I save my paper, come back to it a week later, none of that's going to be saved. So I'm going to have to manually do it every time I change any section I'm writing. So it's always a good idea, if you can, to set everything up in the beginning through what we call our styles pane. So remember, now it depends if you're doing MLA or APA formatting. There will be different variations for that, but this is not an APA workshop, so we don't need to go through all of those. But that's how you use the styles pane and what they're there for. A lot of people don't really realize what they're there for, but that's the whole reason. And depending on what paper you're writing, you may go down to like heading level 3, which isn't up here right now. I'd have to, it's over around here somewhere. You'd have to find it, but you probably won't even go that far. So say you get to a point in your paper and you want to save it. How do you save your paper? There's a couple different ways we can save our work. How do we do that? Anybody know?
Control S.
So
Save
depending on if you are with a PC, you can do Control S. If you're with a Mac, you would do Command S. So, and I'm glad you said that, Jackie, because every shortcut will do. If you're working on a Mac or a PC, and by the way, what I mean by that is a PC is every other brand other than Apple. Apple gets their own, they get their own thing. So they're called Mac. So every shortcut you'll do, you'll hit the Command key plus a letter. That's a shortcut for Mac. For that same shortcut, when you're using a PC, Dell, Microsoft, any of those kind of things, then you'll do Control and the letter. So you can do that way. What are some other ways we can do to save?
And you go to File and Save As.
Okay, so we go to File, and then we can do 2 things here. We can just click Save right now. So I'm glad you said Save As. So first, we actually do want to do Save As first, and then we would use Save or Command or Control S. So we always have to do Save As the first time we ever do it. I don't know if does it show my drop-down box come up for all of you on the, because sometimes it hides it on Zoom.
Yeah, it does.
It does, okay. So what you do right here is this just pulls up your thing of all the work that you have on your desktop, and then you can decide where you want to save it. So we'll just title, you know, workshop for that and say I want to save it to my desktop. So now it's saved to my desktop under the name, and then you just click save. Now that's the first way, and then I come over here and then say I just go back to normal, and I'm going to start typing some regular text in here, and then I'm just going to say this workshop, blah, 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 blah. All right, so we had some work in there. Now I'm not going to click save as every time, so I can do Command S. I can do, and you see it said save to Mac, that just popped up on its own after I did Command S. A PC's Control S, or you just come over here and you can click this little icon right here of this disk that says save, or you can come over here to file and click save. So there's multiple ways you can do that there. The most important thing though is that you do it. You always have to make sure you're constantly saving your work. Don't get to a point, trust me, because we've all learned the hard way. Don't get to a point where you're 3-4 pages into your paper and you haven't saved it yet, because if anything happens at all, you're going to lose all the work you have. That's if like your computer shuts down or you lose your work that way. You don't want that. So constantly be saving. Every time you create like a new paragraph, I always just click Command S real quick and save it. Just always keep that up to date.
But you can also put the autosave, right? To keep saving for you?
Yeah, you can
You
have
had to turn
autosave as
on the
well.
autosave, so you keep saving, yeah.
Yeah, you can have autosave as well. Yep. Okay, now say you're all done with all this and say you got to print it out. You know, maybe you're not in online school anymore. Maybe you're back in school and you have a professor that decides they want you to turn in hard copies of your paper. You can do this a couple ways too. So you're just going to come up here. Once again, you'll click file, and then we come down to print. Hold on. Let me turn off my headphones real quick. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Headphones were dying. Okay, so you come over here, then we just click on that file, print. Now you're going to look at your preview right here, and then obviously you're going to have to be set up to whatever printer you have, and then you just print it off. Now, the beauty of this though is that you're going to see this PDF right here. It's always going to print in the PDF, but you can save it as a PDF as well. So you can save work in a PDF multiple ways. There's different reasons why you may want to save it in a PDF. You can just, you know, save it to any of these or send it as well, but all of this is going to occur in our print button. So if I save it as a PDF and I click on that button, I can save it back to my desktop as well, and then click save. And on my desktop now, I've already saved it as a Word document and a PDF document. For instance, when I send all of you a file for my study guide, that's always in a PDF. And I do that because I know then you're not going to go in and change anything. And then maybe you'll change something, put notes, and you'll forget you made those changes. And then all of a sudden you're maybe deleted something and you're not studying for something that you should be. So I'm giving you a locked document. So I always give you a PDF. I do that with my exams as well before I send them off to the printer at the DVC print shop. So there's different reasons why you would want to do PDF as opposed to Word, but all of that occurs from in here. Okay, so next, the other thing we can do right here is we can start to create bullet points. We can do, Carlicia, go ahead.
Hey, can you change a PDF back into a regular doc?
Yes, you can, but you typically will need an application to do that. Actually, if you Google, they will give you the steps, and there's a website that will allow you to do it for them, where you will just upload your Microsoft document into that. So you can literally Google, I used to do it all the time. I will literally Google how to change my PDF to a Word document, and then they will have an application online where you can then it'll ask you to upload that Word document, or excuse me, that PDF document, and then it will transfer it back to a Word document. So yes, you can do it. It takes a little bit of work though, but a few steps.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question though, because I used to always wonder the same thing because it's not as obvious.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sorry, Professor.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Yes, it's like changing from Word to PDF. It's going under the print option. Yes.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Changing from Microsoft Word to PDF, it's under the print option, yeah?
Yeah, so you can do it a couple ways. That was one way where we just did print. So file, print, and then it's automatically in PDF, but then you can change it if it's not. And then just, it's already saved on mine, right? So then I just do PDF, but it's already saved. So save as PDF, and then that box pops open and I click save. Do I want to replace it? Sure, why not? It's because it's already on my desktop. Or you can come over here and then I can go save as. And when it goes save as, right here under file format, this is going to allow me to save it in many different forms that I want to. So I'll just click on that drop down menu right there, and then I can see PDF right here. So I'll click on that. And I'll just click export, replace, because I already have it as a PDF. Every time, if you already have it saved and you save it again, it's going to ask if you want to keep a duplicate or if you want to replace it. So you can do it a couple different ways right there.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so let's take a look at some of the buttons up here that we have that maybe you've never even used before. So a lot of the basic ones that you are going to use are going to be things like our bold, our italics, but let's underline. Maybe you'll use cross through, but that, or strike through, but that maybe not be something you use too often. If you're using it for math classes or chemistry, you're going to be using super and subscripts. That's going to be more popular than to be using that stuff. However, we can do, and I'll just, for instance, we'll just use this word since I have this word already typed out. There's a couple ways we can do this as well, depending on if you want to do it by just clicking B for bold. I just literally ran my cursor over it by holding it down. Or I can do it, for instance, say this whole thing, you see how it's already all bolded. You can do this if you have a PC, you can click Control A right now, or I can click Command A on my PC or on my Mac. And what I'll do is I can then click Command or Control B, and it will take away or put back the bold I have. And you can see when I click that, watch that little highlighted button, it will disappear and come back. So that's one of the shortcuts. If I want to turn something into italics, for instance, just that word, I can double click on the word I want. I can just run my cursor over it. Once that's highlighted, I can then click on this italics button, or I can do the shortcut for a PC, Control I, or Command I. It's the same thing right there. So you have a couple different things you can do. Now, and that's going to be for any of those shortcuts. You can just Google like what letter you're going to do. If it's a PC, it's always Control and then the letter they tell you. But say I'm typing this word right here and I go, oh, wait a minute. I don't want my introduction right here, but I already started typing it out. I can go, I'm going to see how it's going step by step, everything I just did backwards, step by step. It's because I'm clicking Command Z, it's undoing my last steps. So that way I don't have to try to redo everything again. It's the same thing as using this button up here, which is my back, my undo key. If say I went back too far, you can just click and it goes back to everything I just had. This is very useful when you're typing your paper. You're in the middle of your research paper and you're in the flow, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I didn't want to type that, or shoot, I accidentally deleted that last paragraph, and you start freaking out. For instance, say right here, I'm just typing a bunch of things, but I don't want it in italics, so I highlight it, Command I, and then I'm just typing, and then I accidentally am not paying attention. A kid walked in and I went, oh, wait, crap, I just deleted some of it, and you start freaking out. No need to freak out. I can do two things. I can just click that, or real quick, Command or Control Z. So you don't really got to freak out if you lose it. It's the crashing of your computer you need to worry about. That's the thing you got to worry about most. So I really recommend saving it to the cloud or saving it to an external hard drive. Always, all my important documents are saved in the cloud and an external hard drive. The problem with just saving it on an external hard drive is that those crash too and malfunction. And if you don't have it saved somewhere else, you're in a big, you can be in a big mess. So some of the different things we have right there. So for instance, copy. Say I want to copy something I want to copy a link and I want to put a link on here. For instance, here's the link for, let me pull up that DVC, I'm just typing this in my computer real quick. DVC Canvas login page. This is DVCs. And say I want to put it on my research paper or whatever. So I got the link now. I saved it. So what I did was I just will paste it to this page by clicking either Control V or Command V. And then that's the link for DVC's Canvas. Say I want to undo all of that again, but now I want to copy this and put it somewhere else. Now you just do copy is just Control C or Command C. So I just did Command C. Now I'm going to put it down there with Command V. So I'm able to copy work from one web page to another document. This is very useful when I'm doing my research and I am opening up an article that I found online and I go, you know what, I really like this information. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that article right there, and I'm then going to do Command C, and then I'm going to go to my Word document and click Command V. So now it's all here, and then I can start putting this in my own words and start to summarize it in my own words. So that way I'm not stuck with a bunch of PDFs everywhere getting lost in my work. So that's a good way that you can kind of take that shortcut right there. Let me see. So once we get, let's delete all this stuff right here. If say you want to underline something for whatever purpose right here, say we'll underline that. You can do Command U or Control U. And that one just highlighted that button. So these are the basic ones that you will use. Underline, probably not so much. You typically in college writing are not going to be underlining things, but maybe for your work or for a flyer or something like that, you will want to use an underline. It just depends on what you're using it for. Now we can go into other things right here. Say we have all of this and that's some important information, but we need to like bullet point it or we need to number it. What's the difference? Does anybody know what the difference is of why I would use bullet points as opposed to numbering, or why I would use a number instead of bullet points?
So you can keep track.
Yeah, but it's definitely to keep track, but what would be the difference of when would I say, you know what, I don't want to use this. Let me get out of the italics, sorry.
One's in sequence of each other following the story, and one, and if you use numbers, that means that it separates each individual category.
Perfect. So check this out, Jackie and everyone else. Say you see on my Canvas page for assignments when I give you assignments, and sometimes you see me use bullet points. Other times you see me use numbering. The reason why I'm using one as opposed to the other is actually for your benefit. So when you're writing something up and say all of a sudden I go, you know what, I'm just going to use a bullet point right here. And this information is a bullet point. It's all separate stuff. I want to separate them all out. So I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, that link came up. I don't want to do that. So let me click that. Now here, now what this tells me is that all of this information is not in any particular order. So if I gave you an assignment and I go, all of these things need to be done, and I gave you all bullet points. Now you could do this one first, then you can do this one, then you could do that one. It doesn't matter what order you do it in. That's the reason why we do bullet points. However, if I decided to start numbering everything instead, then you have to do it in that particular order. So it will actually have to be 1, 2, I gotta go over here so I don't click that link, 3, 4, 5. So what this tells you then, if you get an assignment and it's 1 through 5, that means you have to do number 1 first. It's in sequential order. Then you have to do number 2. Then you have to do number 3. Now, this does not necessarily mean that every instructor is doing this correctly, but that's the point of it, is what I'm trying to say. Now, this happens to a lot of you when you're doing your paper, especially with your references page. For those of you that have already done a references page, you've run into this issue. And it's frustrating. You start to realize that, wait a minute, why is my page starting over here now? And how do I get it back over here? And it won't allow me to. Sometimes you'll get stuck. You'll be hitting delete, 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 and nothing's happening. It's not moving. That's what your ruler is for right here. All you got to do is, do you see my cursor is moving around right here? So say I want to move this part up here. I can see how I can manipulate that. I can move it where I want. That's the point of that ruler, because you're going to run into a lot of times where you're trying to delete something and go backspace or delete, and it's not moving. It's no longer moving for you. You're going to see this when you have your references, right? So say you had
you know, the author, 2021, and then it's like, what, CSW, we'll just say for today, and then whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then you have another thing and you're supposed to do a hanging indent, and then you're just putting some more information down here. But for whatever reason, it keeps coming over here. And you're like, hey, it's not allowing me to indent the bottom line without this entire thing moving. This is very common. That will happen a lot of times. So what you will want to do then is you can either keep the cursor on the line you want to move, or you can highlight it, whatever you want, and you come up to the ruler. And I go, okay, there's my hanging indent right there. So when you get stuck, which you will, this is very common, particularly on a reference page, this is how you're going to do it. The ruler is always going to come into play there. That's what's going to allow you to move the lines from one place to another when they won't do it for you, or when you keep clicking something and it moves the entire block of information. That's how you can separate that out. Okay, now, when you're doing, for instance, word count, I know you all know me and my word count, right? So word count is really important. Word count you can do a couple ways. For those of you, if you're using a text box, your chat box or text box in Canvas, it will give you a word count. I've noticed sometimes that word count is always a little off. But what you can do is you can also look down right here, right? It gives you the word count. That's great. But that's really important for you to do. Maybe you're just typing a paper and you know what, I'm going to do my draft of my work first on a Word document. I'm going to get the word count I need. And maybe I needed 500 words, and then it's going and it's giving all my words I need. And now it's at 29. When you're done, I just Command A or Control A, Control or Command C, and then I'll copy and paste it on my Canvas text box. So you can transfer when you're doing a copy from one document or from one application to another. It doesn't have to both be on Word doc. So that's just a little thing right there that you need to see. When we start coming into all of these things up here, so you can come on to, for instance, this is one I like. Everybody, why do you like to use Google Docs? What is the main reason people like to use, or students like to use Google Docs?
It's very simple to use.
It's very simple to use? Okay, that's one.
People
It's always
can,
saved it too. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
It's very
It's
accessible.
always saved. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh my.
Always save. Okay. Jackie and Christian? One of you.
I like Google Docs because people can write and highlight and write little notes to give feedback. Like my other professor, my English professor, she does that. And it really helps me because it's just right there. And I can just hit enable editing and fix whatever I need to fix.
Yeah. So, and Google Docs is great for that. And it's also great for when you're working in a group. And say 5 of you are working together and you can do it live together, right? And all that good stuff. But then remember I said in the beginning, the problem though, you have to turn in a Word doc and all of a sudden everything you did, the formatting is kind of all jacked up, and that's just kind of what happens. And then somebody has to really know how to go in and fix it. Microsoft does have their own version of it. If you click on review right here, and then you click on track changes. So this is whenever you get a paper back from me, and you'll notice particularly on your research papers, really where I do this at, is I'll give you that same thing that you said, Jackie, where all the comments will be directly on there. When you do a paper drop off for the Writing Center, this is what they do. And you're going to be able to get everything. So for instance, I'm going to click on this and I'm like, what does that even say? That's not even a word. So I'm going to make a comment on there. I'll just click on new comment. And now this popped up right here. So I'm going to say, what is this? Like that's not even a word. However, what you can do though, is you all can work together on this as well. Because if I'm saving this and we're all sharing this document, you can do your comments in there. I can do my comments in there. And now we're already saved on the Word document. The beauty is though, as well as like what Jackie said, is that the comments are right there. I know exactly what to fix. I can say like, for instance, maybe we're going to say that this is supposed to be my introduction or something. And I would say to you, this does not follow APA. So then you would know, okay, so the line attaches to it. So I can come over here and click on that box and it highlights where it's discussing about that. So then maybe I'll tell you what you need to do, right? Do not underline. And then you'll go, okay, let me come over here, highlight it, Command or Control U, and now it's fixed. So you can see it told me the changes I made right here. It says no underline. So I can also get rid of it. All you got to do is click on it, right click. And when I right click it, I can reply to comment and I can say, why is that? And then I would send it back to you. And then I can reply back and say, because, you know, whatever, that's not the rule. But maybe you did fix it. I'll just do right click and then I can click on resolve comment. Once it's resolved, what it does is it keeps it there so you can see, or the instructor can see. And then see how it's no longer, it's kind of like hidden a little bit. That lets us know, or the other people working in the group know, that it was corrected, but that it was there to be corrected. Because if I just do right click, delete comment, it never told me that there was an issue there to begin with. So then maybe I don't know that you fixed what needed to be fixed. So, okay, so, all right, Brian and all of you, stop drawing on the thing, please. Okay, so now what we can do, what's that?
Sorry, Professor.
Yeah.
So in this case, but can you all work at the same time when you're typing at the same time as you can do with the Google Docs?
Not as efficient
Not in this
as Google
one.
Docs, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
why students love Google Docs. Listen, I love Google Docs. I love Google Slides. I love all of that stuff. But years ago, I stopped using that. And the reason why I stopped using that is because we always ran into the same problem at the end. It was fixing the formatting. And the formatting is everything, because if I just spent a month with my team working on a big project and we turned it in, and now we got a B on the thing because my title page is now my body of my page and my references for something so simple. There is a way though, where when you get better at it and you start to know the formatting of yourself, it's much easier to just go in and make the correction. And I do prefer using Google Slides because of it. However, it just depends on what you're doing, you know? Okay.
You also can save at the end, like your own file. So there's no changes after that, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You can always save your own file at the end. You can save for you. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
there's changes after, it will not affect you because it's going to be.
That's a great point. So you're going to be working in a group where you're going to have that one student who likes to jump in at the end, right? Maybe wants to steal a little bit of credit at the end. However, you and your group have already saved the file because it's not a live document you're all working on together. It's a file you save that you go, you know what? I don't want this person changing my stuff that I know they're prone to doing. And I don't want to turn that in, so I can at least show the professor, look, this is the work we did. This other student keeps changing stuff. So that's something you will run into when you work in groups. It's unfortunate, but it's just part of the process. So that's the beauty of Word. You can just save your own file and then maybe you can build on it later for yourself. Okay. So say you can also just delete everything right by there as well, or you can just go back to Control Z. Control Z is always a good way to do all of that. Okay. So track changes. You always want to make sure you save it with this button right here, hit, because if I had like, once again, this, and I said, what is this again? And then I don't click track changes and I just did the new comment on its own and I saved it and then say I sent it to all of you to see my comments, none of this will show up at all. It has to say track changes for these to appear for everybody. So if you're working in a group, you have to make sure that green button is on. That's just the way it works right there. Okay, now we can go under view. So view is another really good one right here because view does a few different things right here. So I can click on, for instance, navigation pane. Navigation pane is great when you have a big paper you're working on and you're tired of scrolling up and down trying to find where it was at. Say you have multiple pages right here. For instance, you know what? I'm going to pull out of this one right here and I'm going to pull up a different one for you that has many pages that I have. So that way I can show you something. Just give me 1 second because this is important right here. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So say this paper right here, I'm going to share with you right now, is going to have a bunch of papers. So this is a paper I wrote not that long ago. Okay. So say this paper right here is 28 pages long. Now, for instance, this page right here has a lot of stuff that say my research committee was saying, hey, you know what, maybe elaborate a little bit more on this, but I'm like, I'm spending so much time with it. That's where this button that I clicked on, let me move this bar out of the way. When I clicked on view, navigation pane, it disappears. So view, navigation pane allows me to scroll from one page to the next. So say I wanted to look at a specific reference, I can just come down here and I scroll around for that. Okay. And then that brings me right to my little, whatever it is I'm trying to find. So that's the beauty of that. Another thing you can do is when I'm in navigation pane, I can click on this center button right here, which is document map. This is what breaks down all of the work that you did into an outline. So these little arrows right here that I'm clicking on right here is showing that these are all level 1 headings. So that means when there's an arrow, there's subheadings under each one. So maybe I want to look at the influence of DEA-X waivers and all of the different things that fall under it, but I wanted to go back to that part that had to do with my health belief model constructs. I can just click directly on that in that part of my quote unquote outline. So that way I didn't have to scroll through it where I can barely read it as well. So that's just that right there, and it turns it into an outline. Same thing with methods. And then that shows the beauty of my level headings that I made in the very beginning when I was showing you that as well. It organizes everything for me at the end. Maybe I only want to click on my references. That's fine. And then I click on that. And then there I am right there. I can also come into, let's see right here under design, or no, I'm sorry. Where is it? There it is, insert. So say insert right here. I wanted to put a little image in here, we'll just say, and then I have an image I saved online. I can copy and paste or take a screenshot of an image online. And then you just come in here and I can click on pictures, insert picture. I can do like stock images that they already give you, which by the way, aren't that great. They don't give you a big, they don't give you a plethora of them. Or online pictures, maybe you give you a little bit more. But if you want to just screenshot something from online, save it to your desk. Then I'll click on picture from file. It opens up my desktop right here. And then say I can put any image I want in here and say, I go, you know what? I want to add an image of myself to the front page of my thing because I'm so vain and I want to add a picture and be like, I did all this work. And then you can just manipulate it right here. So you can use all of that and I can start changing things as well by double clicking on that image. Once I double click, I can do anything I want with it. Say I want to make some softer edges on it like that, or I want to make it that cool, like, reflection as we see. How far out do I want that to be? Maybe you want to put a cool little border around it like that, like a frame. So that's where you deal with images in Microsoft Word. And you can do all kinds of stuff with it as well. It just depends on what you want to do. If I want to start getting like a 3-dimensional look to it, I can just click all of this stuff. This is really important when you're making flyers or you're making any kind of like thing that needs to be other than like a paper itself, and you want to really catch the eye. So it does all kinds of things as well. Say I want to just delete it. I can just click on it and click delete because I definitely don't want that on my paper. But then you want to go and say, you know what? I need to highlight some stuff as well. There's something in here that I don't like about my paper. Say Dr. Lee, he was my one of my committee members as well, right? So he was saying, I think you should pick another word. He was a very picky professor. So very brilliant though. But maybe I go, okay, well, I don't know about it right now. So I'm just going to go highlight. And then I'm going to do Command S or Control S and save it. Because later on, I want to go back and just look at my highlights. Those are the things that I know for myself that I need to change. I can do multiple highlights. Maybe that's the highlight I chose for myself. Yellow are the things that I know I need to change. And maybe these are things that I changed already. I'll do in green. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But highlight is really important when you're doing notes for your own paper, because a research paper should never be written in one setting ever. It should be written over time, and you should build upon what you're saying by changing things over and over through the editing process. That's when I use a lot of highlights. I always highlight something I'm working on, something I want to fix, and something I changed, and then see if it makes sense. It's a way to kind of keep track of what you're doing, because as you can see in a 28-page paper where I did my own research, I'm going to forget a lot of things. This was over a year's time that I did this. So I'm not going to remember something from 7 months ago. There's just no way. So I'll just come back out. I still don't want that. I went back too far. Now, when I want out of it, I can do one of two things because I changed things. And this is the last thing I'll show you. I changed things on my paper that was already saved that I'm no longer going to change anymore. And that little red dot right here is when it's going to close out. And it's going to ask me one thing right here. When I click on it, it's going to ask me if I want to save. That's going to mean because it's letting me know that I made changes to a previously saved document. Maybe you didn't mean to. Maybe you did mean to. This is your chance to say, I don't want to make the changes I made because I was just messing around with it. Or maybe I do need to save those changes because it's something I put a lot of time into. For me, for now, I'm going to click don't save because that is irrelevant to what I'm trying to do for you, other than just kind of show you about the actual thing. So any questions on any of this as I try to find all your screen that just disappeared from my picture? My computer thing just, all right. Any questions?
That about covers it for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I don't know where you all went. Like sometimes Zoom does this. Zyra, do you know like why it would disappear, the actual Zoom, the Zoom itself?
It depends on, it used to do that for me when I was on the Mac. So I think it's your settings that you might have to change.
Yeah, this has actually never happened. It used to happen to me on a PC is when it used to happen to me. It's so weird when I close that out.
What if you click on the view and change?
Yeah, like view all screens. Can you view all your apps that you have open?
Oh yeah, no, I can definitely view it. Oh, that's the first thing I did. Yeah, it's not even up there. It's like, that's why I decided to ask him, like, where did it go? It's not even up there. Well, I don't need to see all of you to answer any questions, unfortunately. Let me ask you this. What can you see on your screen? Am I sharing still?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so I'm not sharing the document. That's what I wanted to know. Okay. All right. So any questions about any of this? These are, like I said, these are just very basic things that you need no matter what you're writing, whether it be a paper, whether it be another type of assignment that you're going to have. But these are all the types of like buttons and settings that you're going to have to get used to and continuously use over and over. But we have shortcuts for most of them that will eventually save you a lot of time as they become easier and easier to use.
I do have one question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So Google Docs and Microsoft Word share a lot of the same shortcuts, like Control Z, right? That's an undo button, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something that Google Docs has is a Control Shift Z, I think, or Control Shift V.
Yeah.
And that copy paste like the exact font, or like the font that's on your paper, not the font of what you wanted to copy. Is there any similar thing on Word? Because
it does what? What does that do on Google Doc?
On Google Docs, so for example, you're copying something you're copying a body of text and it's like Calibri font, but then once you copy it, paste onto your Word document, a Google document, like it would automatically change to like the Times New Roman font that you have on your
Word. So that is you're copying and paste it with formatting is what you're discussing, because so for instance, I go through that all the time when I'm by the way, I can see you all, I figured it out. So but what I do is when I'm getting something for your class and I'm finding stuff from a PDF, when I go to copy and paste it, it will do that, Christian. It will then change it to what the document is. But when I right click it on a PDF, it will give me two options. It'll say copy with text or copy with like text formatting or something like that. I'll always click the second one and then it will keep it identical. Now on Microsoft, so that means it has to be done on the paper that you're copying it from when you put it on Microsoft Word. I don't see where that would come into play though if I'm doing it on Microsoft Word, because that would mean I'm taking it from Word to putting it somewhere else. So I think a lot of times it's going to be where you're getting it from is where you will do it at. But with PDF, they'll give you two options. With Google Docs though, how does that work where you're doing it on Google Docs and you want it on Google Docs? It's on the paste portion of it?
Again, it's just like a hotkey. So I mean, if I was copy paste like maybe like a quote from an article that I'm reading and I want to put that on a Google document, it would just automatically, as you said, like the font, like the font style, it would just automatically convert into what I was using in my original Word doc. I mean Google document.
Oh, okay. So I believe you can do that under File, Options, and then Advanced. So you'd go under like the advanced settings right there. And then under like the copy paste, the down arrow for the setting to change. This should give you like the same document when you paste that content into the same document from which you copied that content from. that should give you the same formatting when you're pasting a text into Microsoft Word. So it's under the advanced setting under file.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's a great question because a lot of times that does happen and it changes everything. You have to manually go back in and change it. It's really annoying. So, okay, let me, okay. So any other questions? If not, I mean, it's 4 o'clock. I don't want to keep you all past. I will be on here for a few minutes if you do. Zyra, though, actually wants to tell you something.